No one in Maple Hollow ever forgot the sound. It wasn't just an explosion, it was a moment, the kind that freezes the air, steals breath, and burns itself into memory. Before that second, everything had been painfully normal. The woman in the pink shirt, everyone called her Martha, though never to her face, stood in the middle of the field gripping a thick log like it had personally offended her. Her face was already blackened with soot, streaked with ash and sweat, but her mouth was wide open, mid-scream, mid-rage, mid-demand. She was always mid-something. Behind her, dark smoke curled into the sky like a warning no one had listened to. The old shed rattled. Birds had vanished minutes ago. Even the wind seemed to step back. You people are incompetent, she had been yelling earlier. I pay taxes. No one knew who she was yelling at this time. The man standing a few steps away, arms crossed, beard tucked into a red flannel, said nothing. He didn't need to. His half-smile wasn't cruel, just knowing. He had warned her. Everyone had. But Martha never listened. She slammed the log down harder, fueled by pure fury, unaware of what had been hidden inside it. Or maybe she knew and thought rules didn't apply to her. They never did, until now. Collision boom. Wood shattered like glass. Splinters flew in every direction. The log burst apart from the center, as if the universe itself had finally snapped. Smoke thickened. Debris rained down. Time slowed. Martha's scream changed. Not anger anymore. Fear, shock, realization. For the first time in years, she wasn't in control. The man in the flannel didn't move. He just watched as karma, silent, patient, undefeated, finished what it had been waiting to do. And as the smoke swallowed the field, one thought echoed in everyone's mind. This was only the beginning. The scream didn't end right away. It broke, cracked into something small and desperate as Martha stumbled backward, dropping what was left of the log. Charred wood hit the grass with a dull thud. Ash floated down like dirty snow, clinging to her hair, her shirt, her pride. For a long second, no one moved. Then the silence hit harder than the blast. The smoke slowly pulled apart, revealing the damage, not just to the field, but to her. Her eyes were wide now, pupils shaking, the fury drained out and replaced with something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The man in the flannel finally uncrossed his arms. I told you, he said calmly, his voice barely louder than the crackle of burning wood behind them. Those logs were marked. You don't mess with them. Martha coughed, wiping her face, leaving black streaks across her cheeks. This is your fault. She snapped, but her voice didn't carry power anymore. It sounded thin, hollow. People had started to gather. Farmhands, neighbors, folks who had endured her shouting for months, over fences, noise, property lines, imaginary rules she invented on the spot. No one rushed to help. Not because they were cruel. Because they were tired. A memory flashed through the crowd. The time she called the cops over a rooster crowing. The day she demanded a family move their shed, because it offended her view. The warnings she ignored. Every single one. The fire crackled again, louder this time. The man stepped closer, stopping just outside her reach. Karma doesn't knock, he said. It shows up. Martha opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. For the first time, she had no manager to ask for. No rule to bend. No threat that worked. Just the wreckage she stood in. And as sirens began to echo faintly in the distance, one truth settled over the field like the falling ash. This wasn't an accident. It was a lesson. And lessons have consequences. The sirens grew louder, slicing through the heavy air. Red and blue, lights flashed at the edge of the field, reflecting off the smoke like warning signs from another world. Firefighters jumped out first, eyes scanning the scene, then slowing when they realized the danger had already passed. Passed, but not finished. Martha sat down hard on the grass, legs giving up on her before her pride did. Her pink shirt was torn, burned in places, the color now dull and gray. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, emotionally. A firefighter knelt in front of her. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" She nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again. Her mouth trembled. The woman who once yelled at strangers for breathing too loudly couldn't form a full sentence. The man in the flannel watched from a distance. He remembered the day she showed up in Maple Hollow, demanding changes before she'd even unpacked. She had treated the town like a problem to fix, not a place to belong. Karma, it seemed, had finally corrected her math. An officer approached, notebook in hand. "We're going to need a statement." Martha laughed suddenly, a sharp, broken sound that startled everyone nearby. A statement, she said. What about them? She pointed wildly at the logs, the shed, the people. They did this. The officer followed her finger, then looked back at her, unimpressed. Witnesses say you ignored posted warnings and multiple verbal instructions. That word hit her harder than the blast. Witnesses. She wasn't alone in her version of reality anymore. Everyone had seen. Everyone remembered. The crowd began to thin as the fire was secured. People didn't cheer. They didn't clap. They just walked away, quiet, satisfied, lighter than before. The man in the flannel turned to leave too. Martha saw him and panicked. Wait, she called out. Her voice cracked. You knew this would happen, didn't you? He stopped, looked back once. No, he said, I just knew it eventually would. As the medics helped her to her feet, the truth finally settled in, a slow, painful burn. Karma hadn't attacked her. Karma had responded, and for the first time in her life, Martha realized something terrifying. Part 4 wouldn't be about anger. It would be about consequences. The field was quiet again. No smoke, no shouting, just scorched grass and broken wood, evidence that something irreversible had happened. The emergency vehicles rolled away one by one, taking the noise with them. Martha sat alone on the back of the ambulance, a thin blanket around her shoulders. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark window, soot-stained, tired, unrecognizable. For the first time, no one was listening to her. And that's when it hurt the most. The man in the flannel stood near the fence, watching the sunset bleed into the sky. He didn't feel victory. He felt closure. Maple Hollow didn't need revenge, only peace. Martha finally spoke, her voice low, stripped of edge. I just wanted control. He nodded once. Control doesn't come from shouting. It comes from understanding. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. The town went back to its routine in the days that followed. The shed was repaired. The field healed. People spoke of the incident less and less, not because it wasn't powerful, but because the lesson had already landed. Martha left Maple Hollow soon after. No farewell speech, no demands, just a quiet exit, and strangely, that was the loudest apology she ever made. Moral of the story: karma doesn't need anger.